I'm Dr. Cindy Dupuy,
And I'm Kim Sharman.
and we are on to part 3 of taking apart this kid's scores. So now is the time to talk about intervention. And this kid needs a lot of really different and unique things. Okay. So the first thing that I would put in on the to-do list is having him work with a speech language pathologist. And that speech language pathologist would need to work on executive function skills based on the profile of scores that we saw in oral language. He has difficulty organizing how he's going to communicate. He has difficulty attending to important details in what he's hearing. My suspicion is that he has difficulty formulating grammatically correct sentences. So I would want to see him work on the various parts of speech. I would want to see him receive direct instruction in various strategies for problem solving. Okay. So executive functioning, language structure, formulation, and then if I'd met him and seen interactions and stuff, we might be talking about some social skills in there. So that's part number 1, is just in oral language. Okay. Part number 2 comes into reading. And in the area of reading, he needs structured literacy. Boom. Like, no questions asked. We need to go back on the level of a phoneme. So he needs to work on phonemic awareness. He needs to work on his ability to manipulate phonemes. We need all of that to be solid and consistent. And then we can move on to letter sound correspondence. Then we move into syllable types. We move into origins of the words. We move into semantics and syntactics. Semantics meaning what am I trying to convey, and syntactics, actually I think I just flipped those. How do we make grammatically correct sentences that convey what we intend to say? Okay. I'm getting a little punchy. We've been doing this a couple hours. My apologies on that. So he needs all of structured literacy. It needs to be by somebody who is cross-trained in a couple of different modalities. So Salin, Wilson, Lindemoot Bell, Wired for Reading, any of the systems out there that really follow the tenets of structured literacy. And the person needs to be cross-trained, because when he runs into a challenge, you've got to have other tools in the toolbox to help you kind of address and work around those. Okay. The retrieval piece is always going to be an issue for him. So having very clear and consistent cueing systems to help him remember is also really important. So he needs to hear the rules of syllable division said the same way multiple times. Like, that should be presented. It should be a cueing system so that he sees it over and over and over again. And it's always accessible when he's practicing, so that he doesn't make mistakes in remembering what the rules are. Okay. He will also need some work in orthographic processing. So there's Ann Arbor has got their tracking symbols, words, numbers, all of those that could work. Tactus therapy on the iPad has got a scanning activity where your eye is going in to pick up those details. I would bump font size, and I would differentiate what font he uses and what he prefers, what's easier for him to read. Okay, so that takes care of the reading piece. Not that it's not tiny, but that will also get to the reading comprehension. Then we move into written language. So he would need to decide, the family and he would need to decide whether or not he's going to print, write in cursive, or focus on keyboarding. And I want him to have a reasonable signature. I'm not deeply wed to either print or cursive. It's whatever he prefers and is ready to clean up. And then he should have good keyboarding skills. No questions asked.
Now, can a lot of people want to skip print versus cursive, but they still need to know how to form the letters, right?
Yes. You don't have to be fast, but you need consistent stroke pattern. So if I ask you to write neatly and you can take as much time, I need you to be able to copy and I need you to be able to do it with correct stroke sequence.
Can't skip it.
Yeah. Because there are times in your life where you're going to have to write things. That doesn't mean that I expect him to handwrite at 70 words a minute. It means I need you to be able to write in clear, legible handwriting a sentence without having all the letters look differently. Then we would work on spelling. So the encoding pairs with the decoding. So how do I read words? How do I spell words paired together? He needs to work on different sentence structures. He needs to know the parts of speech. And then he needs that writing process model of brainstorming ideas, organizing ideas, drafting ideas, editing for content, editing for grammar and mechanics, spell check, and publish. There's a lot of meat on that bone that needs to be broken up. And he will need very specific methodologies to work on multi-paragraph topics as his writing improves. And math, last big category. He needs to have an addition multiplication chart available. If the orthographic processing issue is there, which I suspect it is, he needs to practice marking the operational sign so he's attending to what the math problem is actually asking him to do. He's a kid that would probably very much benefit from having a math dictionary that he creates, where he's got the instructions of how to do the problem on one side of the page and the example problem on the other side. And it's got tabs, so he can go to fractions, he can go to multiplication, he can go to measurement. And he's got examples as he's building them in school. He's got examples that he can put in there. And if you do a little 3-ring binder, you can add pages as you need it. But he's got that reference and it's there anytime he needs it. In the back of that, he needs a dictionary of commonly used vocabulary. And ideally, it's got a symbol base to it. So he's got, here are the words that may be used in a story problem. Here's a symbol that would relate to it, so that he can key in very consistently. And he needs a good reference manual. Like he needs other, like hot topics in math is a great condensed, let me show you how it moves forward with a couple of examples and answers. And he needs to systematically work through that. He needs executive function skills for life. So he needs to learn time management. He needs to learn organizational systems. He needs to have a way to remember what's been said and be able to go back and check that he's completed tasks. So as he moves into middle school, having him have an executive function coach that ideally would meet with him twice a week to start, to make sure he knows what he needs to get done by the end of the week, and that somebody is then actually checking in to make sure that he got everything turned in. And he may need a tutor as he moves into middle school to help him preview new material that's coming up, so that when teachers use new language in class or present new concepts, he's got a frame of reference for what's being talked about. So if we were learning European history, looking at the map of Europe, if we were in science and we were going to talk about the life cycle of whatever, let's take a look at what that animal is, how it functions in the world. pre-teaching before the teaching to make sure he's got context for what's coming. So a lot of the meat on the bone. It's going to take a lot of strong professionals to kind of pull that together. And that's how I would break down that kid's data and create a game plan for him. Any comments, Kim? Because that's a lot for you to write down. I notice you're taking diligent notes there.
Any notes? It is a complex situation, but you can't do it all at once, so you chip away at things. And I think you provided the order of things that need to be chipped away at.
Yeah. Start, word, sentence, passage, build as we go.
Yep.
All right. Let us know if you have questions or comments. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Bye.